Well, before we bring lovely Lorna into the conversation about this really actually compelling piece that you've written for the Telegraph today about being treated for social media addiction, let's ask you, Kamal, how long do you spend on social media on your phone on any given day?
On social media, probably quite limited. Obviously, I'm on my phone a lot. So last week's average is 3 hours 39.
Last week's average is 3 hours.
What's yours? No, come on.
Hang on.
Honesty.
Hang on. Week. Is this week or last week?
Go on, read out that number. Read out that number.
My daily average is 5 hours 24, which apparently is down 19% from the week before.
Okay, so a good couple of hours above me. But the important thing, I think, is where it says social.
Yes.
So social for the whole of last week for me was 8 hours 5 minutes.
Social.
9 hours 16. See, I spend
But hang
a lot.
on, it
Hold on,
includes
Camilla.
WhatsApp.
I think the thing is, you and I, Camilla, are on our phones because of a lot of it is because of work. So most of my time on my phone is on WhatsApp, X, Gmail, my running app, the Telegraph, and other news organisations.
I tell you where we differ. So mine are all the same except Instagram, 2 hours 15. And only last night, while I was watching Traitors, did my daughter just grab my phone out of my hand and said, "Mum, you're doom scrolling, please stop." I have got a bit addicted to Instagram Reels. I've got to be honest about that. And I'm watching people, largely middle-aged women with six packs.
So I have stopped Instagram. I stopped that a couple of years ago. I hardly ever now look at TikTok apart from, again, for work. So I like to see how other news organisations, as well as ourselves, as well as the Daily Tea, are using TikTok. And interestingly, and I think there's some trend here, my son, one of his New Year's resolutions was to remove the TikTok app. And my partner has also done that, because once you get onto TikTok, and Lorna, let's bring you in, once you get onto TikTok, you get stuck in this space, this time toilet, where you suddenly sort of almost kick yourself and you realise 3 hours has disappeared. But Lorna, take us through, and I think we were saying, weren't we, Camilla, sometimes this can be seen as, oh, that's not really a thing, this is not really a problem, it's a phone, how awful can that be? But Lorna, take us through the sort of, you know, your journey to get into this situation where you actually went for rehabilitation.
Yes, so I'm 25 now, and I got my first smartphone when I was 13. And when I was 13, I got Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. And I was at school, I wasn't really allowed to use them. It definitely wasn't as much of a thing. Back then, the algorithms weren't around as much. And I'd say it was definitely more into my university years, and definitely COVID's had an impact. You know, we had a lot more time and things where I really got sucked into social media. And found I was, as you said, Kamal, I'd be on my phone and I'd just be scrolling and I'd, you know, see some TikTok or some Instagram reel about some interesting influencer or something, and next thing I'd know who their uncle so on was or what they were doing, you know, down the line, because I'd looked for about an hour and a half. And I think the moment for me was definitely, so I had to do a detox before I went into the rehab to see whether, you know, it was I needed to go, really, or whether I could, you know, control this sort of thing myself. And I knew that my screen time was 5 hours, 18 minutes. I was picking up my phone 262 times a day, taking it to the loo with me at work. I was, you know, just picking it up whilst I was on my phone, picking it up whilst I was brushing my teeth. You know, I'd roll out of bed and I'd go on it. It was the first thing I did when I woke up and the last thing I did before I went to bed. So I did this detox before for a week to see how I'd get on without social media. And sadly, I only lasted about a day before re-downloading Instagram to see what was going on. I found I was constantly reaching for my phone, for my pocket, as if it was normally there. I felt that I was out of the loop. I, you know, didn't know what was going on in the world. I was so used, you know, when I was bored, I felt like I had nothing to do. And so, you know, I'd go on and I found I was walking through parks. I remember it was one sunny day after work. I had a half day and I was walking back to my house through Hyde Park. And I was, getting out my phone and I was thinking, oh, that would look good on my Instagram story. Those birds over there, or the sunset and all of that. And I was like, oh, but I can't post on my Instagram. And then I went to the pub with my friends, and it wasn't like I showed them the pictures I was taking. So I was purely curating this life that I had in my head for social media, to the point I didn't even have the apps then, but I still had Strava, the running app, and I caught myself running, and I was thinking of my caption to put on Strava.
I mean, on one hand, there may be some people thinking, well, this is all very millennial and Gen Z, but so much of what you've said there does strike a chord, because there are moments where I am looking at it, I know I'm not deriving any benefit from it, I don't even know why I'm doing it, it's distracting me from what I do want to do, and then a little bit like an addiction to anything, be it drinking or drugs or cigarettes, there is an aspect to it where you feel you can't help yourself.
No, definitely. And I found the real sort of touch point. So I realised, I needed the social media. It was a thing. I got the validations of the likes I got. I felt like I had to be on it. Was when, just before I went into the rehab, I wrote about this in the article. I'd call my boyfriend, say goodnight or something, and we'd be having a chat, and I'm just there scrolling through to see what's going on, and I'm zoning out, not even listening to what he's saying. Yeah. Or I'm about to write or do something really creative at work, and I'm just like, oh, TikTok. And it's not that I'm thinking about it, but there's almost this urge. It's the urge. It's this compulsive urge, is when you know that you've lost complete control.
So once you've been through this detox and realised that's not going to work for you, it's not under your control, what then happened? And then tell us about going to Delamere, this place where you went for this rehabilitation.
Yes, so after Christmas, it was a bit New Year, New Me, I guess, I went up to Delamere in Cheshire, which is the first UK purpose-built rehab centre, which means, it hasn't been some old building. They've fully made it to cater to people with addiction. So it was this, very gorgeous. It looked in the snow a bit like a sort of chalet up the mountain sort of thing. Very wellness-esque retreat, but with a lot of darkness, I guess, inside. And so I arrived there. I'd already had to do, because I was only going for 2 days, and you're meant to go for 28 days. And the idea was that I couldn't check myself in for 28 days. I wasn't hopefully at the complete dependency point yet, but I wanted to try and learn some tips and to get some feedback and a bit more of an understanding of what was going on. So I came in and I was whisked straight up to what would have been my room for the 28 days. And they did some mental health checks on me, like a questionnaire. They didn't do the physical checks because they thought that I was in all good condition, whereas I guess someone coming in maybe with a substance abuse, they need to make sure you're okay before they start doing the therapies and delving into problems. And so we just did a questionnaire, and I came out as moderately depressed, which I've never had therapy or never felt before.
No.
So, and that wasn't something I would necessarily have considered about myself.
But did you link that back to the social media addiction? Do you think that it's had an adverse effect on your mental health?
Yeah, definitely. So after I'd done that questionnaire and had my sort of admissions and things, I went straight into my one-on-one therapy session. And there we sort of unpicked what damage social media might have been doing to my self-esteem. I'm very guilty of comparing myself to other people. It's very easy to do that on social media and go down, a complete spiral of, oh God, I wanted to be doing that career. She was doing that at 25. How have I not got there yet? Or, an amazing holiday. I would kill to be doing that. Why am I not? Or I'm not good enough. There's this constant narrative that is fed through social media that will have an effect on your self-esteem. So it's unsurprising that their mental health is being impacted.
Absolutely. It's not just this whole fear of missing out. It's everyone else is leading a better life than I am.
I think it's this constant, I think you talked about this sort of affirmation need. We have this dopamine hit when people say to you, well done, thumbs up, that worked, that was good. And social media plays on that. So even once you've posted, that's not it once and done. You're then waiting to see, you're constantly looking to update to see if people have come and said, oh, that was great, Lorna, well done. So I think that that's the reason that you get the addiction. What advice did they give you about how to push yourself into? I think there's no, the NHS, the World Health Organization, there's no definition of social media addiction, but we do know that, as you say, all these slightly depressive emotions were starting to play because of your links to social media. What things did they say to you to start bringing yourself out of that? Because, of course, there's great joy to social media. Seeing a picture of your family, you can keep in touch with your children when they're grown up. My kids are more or less the same age as you, Lorna, and it's lovely to see their stuff and what they're doing. So there are some joys out of social media. But how do you get that right balance? What did they say to you about that?
No, definitely. And I think perhaps where I'd gone wrong was almost prioritising some social media apps over others. So, for example, using WhatsApp isn't necessarily a bad habit. It's not going to necessarily have a bad impact on you because hopefully you're connecting with your family or your friends, you're catching up about life. That's nice, that brings actual joy. Whereas going on to something like Instagram or TikTok, you might see, well, hopefully, but not really with the algorithm anymore, you might see, the pictures of your friends and that's all nice, but there's so much content out there that you have access to that, 1 minute I'll be looking at something and I'm all of a sudden my algorithm is about eating disorders or something awful, and I'm lucky, I'm 25, I feel good about myself, so I go, oh, that's the algorithm talking, go off it. Or, sometimes I might keep watching because I'm interested. But, someone else can go on something like that and see something about eating disorders, and that could be seriously harmful for them as well. So it's this idea of working out which social media is a very big thing. It's going to be in your life. You need to build a healthy relationship with it. You can't completely abstain with it like you would with a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction because, in the same way as food, sadly, this thing is very much, your phone is in your life. I need it to log into my computer.
We need it for work. I mean, we are having to be very much engaged with social media. I like to say that if I wasn't a journalist, I wouldn't be on any of it. Also, you can go, it can suck up a lot of time very, very quickly. And that could be when you're getting into debates on Twitter, regardless of whether you're just doom scrolling. And the other thing that's changed, Lorna, we discussed this before, is there's no end to it anymore. You used to be able to catch up on Instagram. Oh, I'm all caught up. Now it's just never ending. I mean, you could literally be on it the whole time. So you were recommended, I think, screen breaks.
Yeah.
And how can we do that? Are you literally saying you get home and just put your phone away for 2 hours?
So what I worked out for me was the sort of habits of going on your phone when you wake up. You might see something and then that you're automatically in that comparison mode, or it might have set your day off wrong. So I now don't go on my phone when I wake up first thing. I mean, I'm kind of someone who quite often is rushing into the office, so I don't have time. I'm also lucky that I've now started cycling, so I don't have my commute to sit there the whole time on your phone because it's very easy. I mean, you see everyone on the commute. I mean, or just coming into the office. I went outside earlier and every single person to go up the escalator was getting their phones out to go on. We can't be bored nowadays. That's not a normal thing. So I'm lucky in that sense. Then when I get to work, I put it in my drawer. And unless I need to go on it to call someone, we do also have a desk phone, so I've started using that more. But bringing in my book, basic things, but something to do at lunch. That's going to, just being like someone, let's go for lunch. That's not a normal thing to do nowadays. Everyone goes on their own and sits on their phones. And then when I get home, which probably sounds silly, I've almost factored into my day sort of an hour if I'm going to spend on my phone or so, and limiting that time and being a bit more conscious about when I'm going to spend this time on my phone and choosing to, rather than just getting it out of my pocket because I'm bored and going on it for the sake of it.
Have you put app limits on like I use with the children? You're limited in the time that you're going to spend on Insta
I haven't
or
actually,
TikTok.
but I have found, which would be a very helpful thing, but I think I've turned off notifications.
That's a great thing to do.
Which has been really helpful because I would see someone randomly going live on Instagram that I don't really care about, but because I've seen the notification, I just pick up Instagram to go on it, or the same with TikTok. Whereas now I don't have my notifications. There's nothing, if I see the phone screen flash up, it's not inviting me in as much to go on it.
I think one thing for me, and I think for my friends, I think you're absolutely right. It's not just a millennial Gen Z thing. I think for my age group, there's similar types of behaviours that you've been describing, Lorna. I think it's also understanding yourself. They're playing you. You know what they're doing. They're not, as you say, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They're not there to help you connect with, lovely communities or your family. They're there to keep you on and to advertise. And once you've kind of got that into your head that is what that is for, that helps you slightly disconnect from them, I found. Lorna, how has your life improved? It's lovely to hear that, you've been through this thing, you've got these new techniques for handling your relationship with social media. What has it meant for you?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Touching on what you said earlier as well, it's this sort of shiny, colourful, something that is really appealing drug, whereas something that's sort of drugs or alcohol, to some, but, the phone is this appealing thing. It can feel hard to not want to connect with. In terms of how I felt, I've noticed a massive improvement in my sleep. My sleep hygiene, is what they like to call it, has improved dramatically. I like to charge my phone outside my room. I've got an analog clock on the way. Things like that. I've definitely feel happier and more present. A big thing I learned, we did a lot of the sort of mindfulness things when I was at the rehab. I used to love doing yoga, and I used to do lots of breath work and things like that, and I completely rejected that and thought I had no time for it. But that's because I was spending 3 hours on Instagram and TikTok alone, and then multiple hours on other apps. So getting more back into that, which does help you live in the present. And a lot of people say these things are all a bit ridiculous and, just get a grip and get over it and you'll be fine. But we're always on autopilot and we're always just going through things. And when you're getting your phone out the whole time, you aren't really appreciating what is going on around you.
But when you say people will think it's ridiculous, there's probably nothing more ridiculous than me watching videos about 50-year-old women lifting 12-kilogram weights who I don't even know and cleaning their bathroom cabinets with lemon and bicarbonate of soda. Like, what on earth?
You may have learned something.
Doing?
I remember my low point. It was actually in the office here. And the first time, this was some years ago, the first time I realised it was snowing outside is when I saw it on social media,
so
rather
depressing.
than looking out of the window.
Yeah.
And that was a moment for me. And I thought, you never leave your desk, you're always scrolling. Go out and walk, and then you will see the snow actually falling. And it was from then that I started slightly I have slight relapses, but I just make sure I stop myself. What's been the reaction of readers to your wonderful piece? And I do encourage everyone to go and actually read the full piece because it's got some great advice in there.
Thank you. Definitely what's been interesting is I've had a lot of replies, ironically, on social media, but of people reaching out to me saying, oh my God, you think your screen time's bad. Mine's 8-9 hours. I'm on it till 3 a.m. I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
I think it's causing my insomnia. I feel like it's completely affecting the way I perform at work, but even how I interact with my friends, my family. I'm going home, to see my parents home where I haven't seen them for ages, and I'm just sitting on my phone. We're not even catching up about what's gone on for the last few months. Lots of parents actually reach out as well, saying, oh my God, thank God someone's finally speaking about this. It's petrifying. I don't know if you watched that Channel 4 documentary, Swiped, the school that banned smartphones before Christmas.
I love the sound of it.
You did it, didn't you, Camilla?
Well, I did. I gave my children a smartphone challenge where we took away their smartphone and gave them a brick phone. And the overwhelming response from both of them, they're now 16 and 14, they're a little bit younger, was initially, this is hell on earth. And then by day 3, this is just wonderful. I feel like I'm living in the 1980s. God, you must have enjoyed your childhood without social media. So, but of course, they're now back on it now. They try and self-regulate, and we try and get them to self-regulate because I don't believe in taking things away. They've got to come to their own conclusions on it. But that school, kids had breakdowns and things, right?
Full-on breakdowns. They couldn't sleep at night. They were having sort of panic attacks. They were going, what am I going to do with my weekend? And I was thinking, when I was 12 years old, I was getting excited about going to play 40-40 with my friends in the park.
Yes.
Or, doing dress up and doing a comedy show in front of my parents and thinking we were really funny or something. I wasn't going, oh my God, I need to be on social media on my phone. It's so sad. And I mean, I'm only 25. I'm not looking to have children soon. But it makes me think, if this is the direction the world is already going in, and it feels like not much is getting done, well, I'd be petrified to bring in a child into the world who, if, you know, over 60% of 9-year-olds are on phones already, smartphones nowadays, then what's it going to be in 10, 15 years' time?
But then I think, do you know what? I think we're going to go full circle, because the kids themselves are waking up to it and self-imposing. They know that it's making them unhappy, and we know it's making them unhappy, because the thing that we've identified here is you can never be thin enough, your house can never be clean enough, your wardrobe can never be stylish enough. It's just all completely unobtainable. And therefore it makes you feel so low. And if we feel like that as adults, imagine how children feel. I have hope that actually they will come to see the light and reject it more and more.
I think there is a self-regulation. We've been very similar to you, Camilla, you know, with our kids, about trying to help them self-regulate, but leaving it to them. And I think there will be that self-regulation. Lorna, you sought out support to do what you're doing. You've had lots and lots of people saying to you, thank you for the piece, because I've now learned something, I can do something. Good hack. Right, Lorna, one hack to leave our audiences with?
My hack is, so I was finding I was taking pictures for content purely, and, you know, wasn't showing my friends and things. My hack is now actually getting photo albums printed off, so that I can actually look through them with my family, my friends, or even it just feels of more of a nicer thing to do, to look back through memories rather than having to do it on your phone as well.
Love that.
Love
and
that.
It's a great gift. It's
Yes,
a great
great
gift to
gift.
someone, to just give them physical
Let's
photos
all
or
go
an
back
album.
to crafting, knitting,
Yes.
making our own paper.
Should we just go back
and
to
then-
1980? Let's go back to
18th
when
century.
Thatcher was elected, when everything was much better.
Lorna Perry, our communities editor, thank you so much for coming on the Daily
Thank you
Tea.
very much.
Thank you.